Hello everybody. I'm recording this video, sorry about the echo, from a borrowed studio in the woods in Northern Ontario. This is my final full day here and it's been such a treat. But I thought before I left I would just shoot a little video for those of you taking the gel monoprinting with me, Kim Lee Ko, from the autumn garden and fresh produce, depending. So I'm not going to cover every single material. I mean, there aren't that many really, but I might get close. So the first thing is from the autumn garden or fresh produce. Fresh produce is introduced because it doesn't always occur to us that we have access to leaves and stems and interesting organic material from the produce aisle of our supermarkets. So if you have access to plant material from your own garden or places nearby, try not to poach from people's gardens who aren't your friends, or at least don't tell me about it. So if you don't have access to much of that, then have more material from the produce section of the grocery store and less from outdoors, and vice versa. Okay, so there's tons of wonderful stuff available. And I just, on my way to the studio this afternoon, I stopped by and picked up things, some very common things like just some leaves. Try and find more than one of each kind of leaf and try to find different leaves. I love the sawtooth edge of this. The vein pattern is so beautiful, and it's sort of fun that something's munched it. So there's that kind of material. Then that's sort of a broadleaf thing. Oak trees, look for interesting shape and vein patterns. Grasses with seed heads are wonderful. Leaves that are long with vein patterns that go along the length can be really wonderful. I don't have an example of that here, but here's a lovely leaf. Look at that beautiful vein pattern. But also, there may be flowers that are kind of on their last legs in the fall. They're not, in their full glory. I'm going to try printing with these today to see what I get from them. Every print will be very different depending on the qualities inherent in each plant. There's also the possibility for something like this, which has gone to seed. The fluffy bits are going to stick to the plate, which will be a nuisance. You just don't want sharp, prickly bits, like really sharp, hard, prickly bits, because you don't want them damaging the plate, okay? And that's why I want to emphasize not super dry, brittle things, but things that are still pliable, all right? So, and ferns are always beautiful, so I've picked some fern and, little wildflowers and things. So sometimes it's nice to have the leaves on multiple of them on their stems as a grouping, because that could be a nice thing to print with, plus some individual leaves. So that's the, I won't show you produce because I don't have any here in the studio. Now the plates. So many of you who are Quest Art Midland members will be receiving plates from Quest Art. But for anybody who's signed up who isn't, I just want to talk briefly about plates. I use commercial plates, and there are recipes for homemade or DIY gelatin plates. That's the older method of doing them. But commercial plates are nice and durable and nice and regular. And they don't tend to go moldy. They've been made so that they're permanent plates. Permanent, right? Like everything in the world that's permanent isn't ultimately permanent, but they last a long, long time. This is a 6 by 6 inch size, and this is a 5 by 7 inch size. My recommendation is not to go any smaller than that. There are 4 by 6 and smaller. 4 by 6 is the smallest you could reasonably use, and it's not that reasonable because you have to work quite miniature, and it makes it difficult to try different things in the negative spaces outside of the plant. So really 5 by 7 or 6 by 6 is the smallest I recommend. 8 by 10 inch is a very versatile one because you can print on regular letter size paper. So that's really nice. You can, of course, work with larger plates. So if you have a 12 by 12 or a 12 by 16 or whatever, maybe you've made your own, by all means. It will just tend to be a little slower working with it because you're covering more surface area and you're composing in a larger surface area. Now, of course, if you have large scale material to lay on it, that will mitigate that. Okay, you need a brayer. This one still has paint on it. Sorry about the notifications I'm getting. But it's not caked on. It has been, all the excess was brayered off, which is something we do between every print, every application of paint. And ultimately, this will be able to come off as a kind of a skin. Anyway, this is the soft type rubber brayer, okay? You can also have a 2-inch. If you have one of the smaller plates, 2 inches can be quite appropriate. And if you have a large plate, you might want to have a 6-inch. I say soft rubber, that is the preferable kind because you're going to be working with material that has thickness and texture. But if all you have is a hard rubber brayer, then try it out. Okay, other materials. I mentioned on the materials list that you need some method to an additive or a medium to add to your acrylic paint to slow down the drying. It can get very frustrating with some processes if the drying is too fast. In other processes, it's frustrating if the drying is too slow. So we'll talk about that a little bit during the workshop. It's a 3-hour workshop, so a lot of things will come up. We won't necessarily be able to go super in depth on them. Pardon me, I just noticed my hair is a bit messy. So here are some of the things. You can have, open acrylic medium by Golden. This is a little bottle, and you can add it to any acrylic paint to slow down the drying. It doesn't have to be to Golden paints, and it doesn't have to be to their open line of acrylics. This is a tube from their open line, which means it's like that medium is already in here, so it dries more slowly. That's certainly an option. It's not the cheapest option, though. The cheapest option is to have a less expensive paint with some Golden open, okay? Now, another possibility is, because you can add this, to, craft paints, okay? We'll talk about paints in a second. You can have any, most acrylic mediums will slow down the fluid ones I'm talking about, okay? Will slow down the drying time of paint. So if you have a gloss medium or a matte medium or something like that, it will slow down the time. Now, if you want another recommendation other than the open medium, sometimes it might be a question of availability, then Golden makes something called Glazing Liquid. It's Golden brand only, and it's called Glazing Liquid. It slows down drying time more than normal acrylic mediums do. And it's very important not to confuse that with Liquitex's glazing medium or TriArt's glazing medium. Those are the three brands that I most often use and refer to. TriArt's a Canadian brand, by the way. Golden and Liquitex are kind of the gold standard brands. Okay, so that's a possibility. If nothing else, you can go to your pharmacy or your your favorite cake decoration supply store and get glycerin. Now, the thing with glycerin is I'm not able to advise you very well. I'm going to try and do a little testing before the workshop, but I can't advise you very well how much of this to use. I'd start conservatively with what I use of the mediums and then see how that goes. But this can be added to slow down the acrylic paint. When you're adding something like this that's not an acrylic medium, it's an additive, you have to make sure that you have far more paint than you have of this, okay? All right, that's it for retarding. If you want to have handy, I didn't mention this on the materials list, a fan or a blow dryer. You'll need to mute your audio on the Zoom class if you use it. So I recommend a fan more to make things dry faster. So that's just an additional thing. For cleaning, you need some alcohol-based hand sanitizer. This is really super useful for cleaning up the plates. You need a spray bottle of water, and you know what that looks like, and you know what paper towel looks like. Alternatively, what works better than just water and paper towel is baby wipes, amazingly, but they really work very, very well cleaning off plates and cleaning off brayers and other tools. So that's something to bear in mind. Ultimately, you may find that your gel plate gets stained. There's stuff that's stubborn. It's mostly very easy to clean, and there's a way to do a pickup print that actually picks up most of the paint anyway, if not all of it. But you can have staining with certain pigments, and you can have some leftover stuff. Baby oil, there we go, which is really mineral oil. It's lightweight mineral oil. So baby oil works great, but if you're sensitive to fragrance, go to the pharmacy and order some lightweight mineral oil, and that will do the job for you. Unless you have another place you can get it. Yeah, not other kinds of oil, mineral oil. Okay. Paints. Okay, so I mentioned craft paint. So there are lots of, dollar store paint, whatever. It needs to be acrylic. You can use other kinds of paint on gel plates, but it will behave differently than what we're going to be doing in the workshop. Fluid acrylics, like this golden bottle, can work. And so if that's what you have, by all means, use it. Again, it will behave somewhat differently than what I'm going to be demonstrating. Just because it is fluid, the applications will be thinner. But there's, in something like a golden fluid or a Liquitex fluid, the pigment load's very, very high. It's very high quality paint. What I'm going to be using mostly is Liquitex Basics. Now this is a big tube, but they have sets of small metal tubes, like 2-ounce tubes with lots of colors, and they have smaller versions of these tubes as well, which are I think 4-ounce. Yeah, and this is just over 8 ounces. For those of you who like experimenting, I don't know if I'll have a chance to experiment, but if you have a bit of acrylic ink, again, it's going to behave totally differently because it's ink, right? It has no thickness to it. So I just wanted you to know that this is something you can play with on your gel plates, maybe after the workshop. I would stick with fluid as the most fluid that you use. Okay, I think the final thing I need to talk about is paper. So I'm a big fan of, you can certainly use sketchbook paper. I'm also a big fan of mixed media paper. Canson XL is a nice, affordable brand with good size pads in terms of number of sheets available. And they come in different sizes. This one's a 7 by 10 inch, but they come as large as 18 by 24 inches. So just check your local art supplier. I have, various kinds of sketch pads, and I'll use any of them. What you're looking for is the smoother it is, the more detailed and precise the print will be. But it can have just a little bit of tooth, like these sketchbooks do have just a little bit of tooth, very mild tooth. I'm going to test out things like tracing paper to see how they turn out. You can also print onto scrapbook paper and watercolor paper. This is a fluid brand hot press, so it's smooth. Cold press, generally, it depends on the line and the brand. If there's a smoother side to the cold press, then use the smoother side, but hot press gives the best results. But you don't have to go that expensive. Watercolor paper is more expensive than non-art supplies. So you can get something like this cardstock paper. This is a small size, 5.5 by 7.5. You can get white cardstock that is letter size and larger, but it's easier to get letter size. And this is acid and lignin free. So those of you who are concerned about the archival qualities of your materials, you don't have to worry because it's already like this. I'm just trying to think where I got this. It's possible I got it at Michael's, but I'm not positive. So I apologize, but I have a lot of papers. And this is just what I have with me here. Because you can use scrapbooking papers, it means you can print onto patterns and colors and all of that kind of thing. I would keep the patterns out of it, but if you wanted to try during the workshop some colored scrapbook paper, start off with white, but you can move to color. So what do I use as my most basic papers? By the way, the sketchbook paper and the mixed media paper are what I refer to as mid-weight papers, okay? And cardstock, obviously, and watercolor paper are heavy papers. Let me just move this, and I can get at. So you can use something as simple as office copy paper. You get a better result if you get a kind of premium printer paper like this HP Premium Choice Laser Jet paper. Now the amazing thing about this is it's acid free, but this is 32 pound. You'll also find 28 pound. Normal office copy paper is 20 pound to 24 pound. So either can be fine, just the higher quality, the better, just because you don't want the paint gluing the paper to the surface of the plate, and then you peel it back and the paper sticks to the plate. It's happened with certain office copy papers, but I use this kind of premium office paper all the time. It's a great way for me, before I start working with the expensive art papers, it's a way for me to test things, to play without worrying about the cost of the paper and so on, which is awesome. Now, some of you may be jelly printers and already have what's called unwaxed Deli paper, which is kind of translucent, semi-transparent paper that it literally is used for wrapping sandwiches in. It has a smoother side and a rougher side, and you print to the smoother side. You can print to either side, but it's better on the smoother side. You can hear it's crispy. It looks a bit like tissue paper, and some people even print to tissue paper, so I'll mention that. But this is sturdier and has better wet strength than tissue paper. Final options I'm going to mention are Chinese and Japanese papers. So this package, it has no branding on it. This is a little package. You can get little rolls of calligraphy paper for practicing calligraphy, for practicing brush painting, that kind of thing. Let me just pull out a sheet. So there's a bit of translucency to this paper, as you can see my hand moving through it. And it has a very slight texture to it, and you can see it's a little mottled. So these are traditionally made out of mulberry paper, but there are other fibers that they can be made out of too. And there are exquisite handmade papers that are from this tradition, but machine made is very economical. And if you don't have a Chinatown near you that you can purchase these at, or a Chinese calligraphy or Chinese brush painting club or teacher near you where you might be able to source that, you can order it on Amazon. So just so you know. I'm just going to go get one more premium bond example. This happens to be a large format paper, and the packaging has been through the wars. I'm just trying to find the label. Here we are. Here's the label. So you can see it there. Okay. So it's 28 pound. And it's hammer mill color copy digital. That often is a way for you to identify an appropriate premium bond, is that it's meant for high quality color reproduction. It doesn't have, the key is it does not have an inkjet coating. Do not use inkjet coated papers, whether they're shiny, matte, anything else. You don't want, it has a very thin clay, super fine clay layer. You don't want that. That's going to mess with your prints. Okay. And this is totally uncoated, but it's a super smooth finish. It's unbelievable how smooth it is. And so, it's just a little heavier and a lot smoother and nice bright white opaque version of office copy paper. Now, one of the things that's fantastic about this premium bond paper that I keep going on about is, you get a whole package of how many sheets are in this? 500 sheets, is it? Yeah, 500 sheets for a very reasonable price. The cost per sheet is tiny. And that can be very liberating. It can also make the process affordable for anyone who has a tight budget they need to stick to. And then you can choose to use art papers once you've warmed up for the day, so you've gotten, your warm-up prints out of the way, or, just special things that you're doing where you want to have art papers. But don't feel you have to have bond paper, premium or not, because of course, if you have a plentiful supply of sketchbook paper and other art papers, printmaking papers obviously would be suitable, then just go ahead and use that. Smooth, though, is going to give you the best results. Okay, I think that's it. So I will get this edited and get it out as soon as I possibly can, so that you have a better idea of what the materials list is all about. Oh, I forgot to mention, for the jelly plates, the commercial jelly plates, the 3 brands I can personally recommend are Speedball, Gel Press, it's GELPRESS, and Jelly Arts. It's the most famous one probably because they do thousands of videos and they promote everywhere. This is what a Jelly Arts package looks like. Unfortunately, I just don't have handy the packages for Speedball or Gel Press. Okay, I think I've covered all of that. So have fun gathering supplies, gathering a very small number of man-made things to work with, and of course, save the organic material for just 2 or 3 days before, except for produce that's in the fridge, keeping well. And you can put your plants from the garden or from the wilds into water to keep them nice and pliable. Otherwise, you can just collect them the morning of the day that we're doing the workshop. Okay. I look forward to playing with the gel plates with you and working with gorgeous organic material, and we'll see what we're able to produce. All right. Until then, take care, and I hope to see you then. All right. Bye-bye.